I welcome a brand new Senator Kennedy, not only to this committee, but to the Senate as well. Senator Kennedy, you're allowed 10 minutes now.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Thank you.
My name is John Kennedy, and that's really my name. Just so you'll know, I used to have a law partner named Jose Canseco.
Oh, is that interesting?
Would caused a lot of confusion when we'd go to meetings together.
I guess.
I have been impressed in preparing for the hearings with the deep support you enjoy from law enforcement. In fact, one of my sheriffs from Louisiana, I don't know if Greg is still here, Sheriff Greg Champon, who also happens to be a lawyer, came all the way up from Louisiana to lobby other senators on your behalf. And I've noticed that a lot of the organizations that are supporting you are organizations that have not always agreed with your positions on the issues. And that impressed me. I just wanted to read you one quick excerpt. This is from a statement by the Sergeants Benevolent Association from the NYPD, New York, about as far away from Mobile as you can get. This is what the letter said. Quote, as a union representing law enforcement officers over the years, the SBA, that's the Sergeants Benevolent Association, has worked as both an ally and a respectful opponent of Senator Sessions. This experience has shown us that Senator Sessions is a man of unquestionable integrity, devoted to the rule of law and the best interests of our nation. It's for these reasons and many others that we believe Senator Sessions is the absolute right choice to serve as America's chief law enforcement officer. Now, that impressed me. I'd like to know what you intend as Attorney General to do to further partner with state and local law enforcement.
That is so important. And the United States attorneys throughout the country, as in Louisiana and Alabama, are key players in this. All United States attorneys' colleagues are funded to have law enforcement coordinating officers. I had two in my small office. We had regular meetings. In the early 80s, this is when it started. This is when the first time. And so instead of having a law enforcement plan produced in Washington, D.C., the U.S. attorneys were directed to get all the federal agencies and all the state and local agencies to sit down and identify what their main threats are and to direct their resources to deal with these real threats in that district, and they would be different in different districts around the country. I sense that that's been eroded somewhat, so we need to go back to a lot of that. The Department of Justice has great resources for identifying tactics and strategies that work on crime. We ought to be able to always help the state and local police officers have the best data on what works and how to create safer and better communities. The federal government cannot dictate to these agencies. It would be a disaster. They wouldn't accept it, number one, and any influence you might have would be eliminated. We need to be partners. The federal government, through its power internationally and nationally, can help a local investigative agency solve a complex criminal case if they don't have the subpoena power, or they don't have a Louisiana U.S. attorney or a sheriff doesn't have power to have investigations conducted in Texas or Denver. So these are the things that are all important. And I truly believe that from a matter of public policy, we need to see the big picture. And we're all in it together. We're all in it together. And 90% of the law officers in America are state and local. And they're the ones that are the eyes and ears of law enforcement. So I really think, Senator Kennedy, you're correct that we need to do this. I think there's a feeling among law enforcement that that's not been happening sufficiently.
I think you're right, Senator.
And I sense that that's one of and the fact that I think I understand that I've had as much strong and enthusiastic support as I've had.
You know, when a radical Islamic terrorist drives a truck into a group of people and kills them, we're told that we should not judge all Muslims by the act of a few. And I agree with that. Don't you think the same rule ought to apply when one or two law enforcement officers make a mistake? Don't you think the same rule ought to apply to all the other 99.9% law enforcement officials out there who just get up every day and go to work and try to protect us?
Well, I really do. And I think those of us in high public office do need to be cautious about demeaning whole departments and whole groups of people, because within those, most any departments you can find in America, surely most of the people are just wonderful servants, public servants trying to do the right thing. So when we say these things, we can increase risk for them. We can make it harder for them to have relationships with the constituents where they're serving, and actually result in an increase in crime and ineffectiveness in law enforcement. So, boy, these issues we can't miss these issues. Yeah. You cannot make big mistakes like we may be making now. And so I commit to doing my best as a law officer to engender the kind of unity and comprehensive effort, state, local, federal, that would be the most effective engine to fight crime and make our communities safer.
In Louisiana, Senator, we believe that love is the answer, but we also believe that we have the right under the Constitution to own a gun just in case. Could you share with me your thoughts on the Second Amendment?
Well, I do believe the Second Amendment is a personal right. It's a historic right of the American people, and the Constitution protects it and explicitly states it. It's just as much part of the Constitution as any of the other great rights and liberties that we value. So my record is pretty clear on that. However, if people can forfeit their right to have a gun, and it can be a factor in receiving sentences and being prosecuted if you carry a gun, for example, during the commission of a crime. That can add penalty and convictions to you. I think that's a legitimate and responsible restraint on the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms.
I think they believe this in Alabama too, but in Louisiana we also believe that nothing makes it easier to resist temptation than a good upbringing, a strong set of values, and witnesses. I'd like to know your thoughts on the Freedom of Information Act.
Well, the Freedom of Information Act is law, and I would say it's carried out, and the policies of the country need to be followed.
Okay. I've got one final question. I read the Inspector General's report about the Department of Justice. I think it came out in about the middle of 2016, last year. The Inspector General talked about problems with the department's massive grant programs. And the Inspector General said that approximately $100 million over the last 5 years went for, quote, questionable expenditures, or funds that, quote, could have been put to better use. Now, this is taxpayer money. It didn't just fall from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets. I'd like to know your thoughts about the IG report, if you're familiar with it, and what you plan to do once you're confirmed, and I believe you will be confirmed, to help our friends at the Justice Department prioritize their spending a little bit.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. That report raises real concerns. I believe that any responsible public official should recognize that when they obtain an IG, their own inspector general, and saying that their department is not performing according to high standards, should listen to that report and take action and review what's happening and make sure it does not continue. The American people have no desire, and they absolutely should not have their money sent to Washington and then be wasted. We can do a lot more with the money that we have, having been ranking member of the Budget Committee. And I know that how difficult it is, but one way to get extra money, free money, is to use the money you've got wisely for things that are valuable.
Senator, I don't know you well, but I've followed your career with respect and admiration for a lot of years, and I just wanted to tell you that. You're going to be a great Attorney General.
Thank you. Thank you very much.